Sometimes the world doesn't pause for a good deed. For Ethan Walker, a single dad whose entire life was a tightrope walk between work deadlines and school pickups, this was a hard truth. He lived by the clock. Every minute was accounted for. Every second precious. But on a rain-slicked Tuesday afternoon, staring at a woman crumpled on the roadside, her hand pressed tight against her pregnant belly, the clock just stopped. He glanced at his watch. He was already late for the biggest meeting of his career, a presentation that could finally pull him and his daughter out of their financial struggle. His boss's warning from that morning rang in his ears. "Don't be late, Walker. This is your last chance." But then he looked back at the woman, her face a mask of pain and sheer terror, and suddenly his last chance didn't seem to matter anymore. He pulled his car over. It was a choice that would cost him everything. Before, it gave him more than he could ever imagine. "Are you okay, ma'am?" Ethan asked, his voice soft as he knelt beside her on the wet pavement, the rain plastering his hair to his forehead. Her name was Serafina, she managed to gasp out, her breaths coming in ragged waves. She'd been on her way home when the pains hit, sharp and sudden. Her phone was dead. There was no one to call. Without a second thought, Ethan helped her into his passenger seat as her body trembled. He buckled her in, promising it would all be okay, that he'd get her to the hospital. As he sped through the slick city streets, he just ignored the frantic buzzing of his phone. He knew it was his boss, Mr. Henderson. He knew the presentation was starting without him. He could almost feel the opportunity he had worked tirelessly for over the last year, slipping right through his fingers. But every time he glanced at the terrified woman beside him, he knew he'd made the only choice he could live with. He was a father. He understood that primal fear of not being able to protect your child. He stayed with her in the emergency room until the nurses promised him she was stable and in good hands. By the time he finally left the hospital, it was 2 hours after his meeting. The city lights seemed to mock him, shining on a future that no longer felt like his. When Ethan finally walked into his office, the silence was heavy, almost suffocating. Mr. Henderson was waiting for him, arms crossed, his face a thundercloud of pure fury. "Don't even bother, Walker," Henderson snapped before Ethan could say a single word. "I called you a dozen times. The clients are gone. The deal is dead." "Sir, please, just let me explain," Ethan began, his voice strained. "There was a woman on the side of the road. She was pregnant. She was in labor. I had to get